What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Self Mastery. Today, I have a new episode for you all. It's your boy, Sabby. Let's get into it. Today's topic, I will be discussing the law of supply. So, going back to the main book that I have been talking about for quite a while now, it's been many weeks, I have been discussing laws or 11 truth principles from this book. The law of supply is another great principle, another great spiritual law that runs the show. And so I will be discussing this law with you all. Be sure to check out this book. I'll show it to you once again, Working with the Law by Raymond Hollywell. It's a great book recommended to me by my teacher and mentor, Bob Proctor. And I've read this book countless times. I've even heard the audio version, like, I don't even know how many times, but I've heard it, so I know it. But everything that I share in this video will be a short overview of the law of supply, because the law of supply, it's vast. There's a lot of information. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to absorb and become one with, in the sense that there's a lot that the law of supply teaches and that we must become one with in that sense. For lack of a better word, there's a word out there for it. I can't think of it right now, but that's what I mean to say. But let's get into the video for today. I will be drawing some more information from a couple of books that also talk about the law of supply. One of them is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. It was written in the early 1900s about how you can get rich. And also, I will be doing a whole video on the principles shared in that book. So stay tuned for that. I promise that's one of my next videos coming up. And I'm excited to do that for you guys. And also, The Secret of the Ages. It's another great book I've read a few times by Robert Collier. And that also talks about the law of supply. So without further ado, let's get into it. You see, as human beings, we have limited thinking. I mean, that's just, the fact. And it's not that we have limited thinking because we're designed this way. No, we're designed to be limitless. But conditioning, right? Societal conditioning, the way we have been conditioned by our family, by culture, by media, by, generational, conditioning, just all around us, friends, society, school, we start thinking in a limited way. And because of that, what happens is we start thinking that supply is limited. We start thinking that the government is our source of supply. We start thinking that the banking system or the banks are our source of supply. When we're young or when we're still dependent upon our family, we believe our mom and dad, our family is our source of supply. And not even that, we can think our friends, government, society, the list goes on of what we consider to be our source of supply. But we don't realize that these are not actually the true source of supply. These are actually just vessels or channels from which the supply flows through. If you think about it, right? The farmer that plants the crops and then harvests the crops, right? All of that is then exported, right? People come, pay that, pay the farmer, take all of that produce. And then, there's like middlemen that deliver it to different companies. And those companies start delivering it to like local businesses. So it's like it goes through like a whole chain, a whole network of, events or whatever. And then finally you get your groceries or your produce at the local shop. But you don't realize that it all came from the farmer planting the seeds and harvesting the crops. But everything else was a channel from which your produce came. Same thing, same metaphor can apply in this scenario in the sense that there's only one source of supply in this entire universe or multiverse complex, whatever you want to call it. And that is source energy. Or you can also term it as God, or you can also term it as existence itself, right? But source energy is the main source of supply, which provides us with everything. It provides us with all. And it's up to us to become connected to that source, to become closer to that source, to become one with that source. And how do we do that? I'll get into that shortly. But first part of this entire law of supply is that we must change our thinking or our belief system from believing that, like I mentioned, that the government or the family or whatever is our source. No, it's not your source. Those are just channels. The main source is the divine. And that's where all the good comes from. That's where all your blessings come from. That's where all your everything comes from. I'm going to draw something from the science of getting rich. You see, the first principle in the science of getting rich is that there is one original substance, or there is one original source. And this source, obviously, as you've read in theology, religion, whatever, is that it's omnipresent, it's omniscient, right? Meaning that it's present everywhere. And it's ever knowing, it's all knowing, right? So same thing, right? This original substance, it can penetrate anything. It permeates all around, right? It fills the interspaces of this entire universe, this entire multiverse complex into, every single corner, every single nook and cranny of existence. All of existence is filled with this original substance or this source of supply. It's all around you. It's permeating. It's right now in your room as you're listening to me speak, as you're hearing me speak. It's with you right now. It goes through anything, right? It penetrates anything. So it's all around you, and you are always in touch with this source of supply. That's something you have to have faith in, right? This is where faith comes in, because yes, you cannot see the source of supply. You cannot see this original substance. It is invisible to your physical senses, but a lot is invisible to your senses, right? Can you see gravity? You cannot see gravity at all, but you know gravity exists because you've experienced gravity. Whether you've experienced it physically or whether you've experienced gravity non-physically, whatever, you've experienced it. Right now, you're living in a three-dimensional world, but you have to understand that there's higher dimensions beyond your knowing, beyond your comprehension. And they're all right now present in this reality, but you're not tuned into those dimensions because you're just not, you're limited to a certain kind of physical existence, but your spirit, your inner dwelling spirit is connected to it all, right? You can call it spirit, you can call it being, you can call it the subconscious, whatever you want to call it. It is in touch with that source always. So going back to the main thing, I digress. You see, the original substance is all around you, and you create through your thoughts, because you see, thoughts are powerful magnets. Thoughts are super, super powerful. And I will link a video, The Law of Thinking, maybe around here or maybe in my description, where you can understand the power of thoughts. And I go deep in that video about the power of thinking and how powerful thoughts are in order to create your reality. But you see, every thought that you think impresses itself upon this original substance. And guess what happens? You create exactly what you think. You create exactly what you think, and thoughts that are powered with emotions, powerful emotions, right? They create more prominently in your life. That's the beauty of this original substance, is that it's always at your disposal, right? Supply is always at your disposal. You must understand one thing. Another thing about the law of supply is that all the supply that we ever need for generations, for millennia, for ages to come, it's ever present. All the energy that can possibly ever exist is present right here and right now. All the supply that can possibly ever exist is right here and right now. It's all around. Everything is here right now. But the only thing is, we have not learned to utilize all of it. Let me give you an example, right? If you think about when when human beings, were riding horses, they had no idea of what an automobile was, or let alone an airplane or or any of those, right? Because, why? Because their consciousness was not up to speed, right? They weren't tuned in to that particular mode of existence. And because of that, they did not know what any of those things were. They did not know how to even create those things. Yet, we have been able to create those things now. We're living in a crazy world now. We have like, all sorts of transportation now. Fast transportation, right? Like look at like an F-16 fighter jet, right? Super fast. But you see, the supply was always here in order to create those particular modes of transportation. They were always here, right? We had all the metals, the elements available to create a fighter jet, an airplane, an automobile. We had everything in terms of supply to create it, yet the idea was just not there, right? And this is going to continue in the future as well. Think about the year 3000, right? We might have crazy, inventions by then that we can't even conceive of right now. But obviously, as consciousness keeps evolving, as time keeps going forward, guess what's happening, right? We're gonna start becoming more innovative, more inventive, more creative, and we're gonna start having better ideas to make our life easier and more effective and beneficial for us. And so we're gonna create unique things. But the supply has always been here, and the supply will continue to be here. So for anyone that feels like resources are limited, fresh water is decreasing in this planet or on this planet, or we're all gonna die because of people overusing. It's all propaganda. It's propaganda, and it is all conditioning by the media. So don't pay any attention into that, because then again, going back to the principle I was just talking about, if you think lack, guess what you're going to manifest? You're going to manifest lack. That's how the law of supply works, right? And so I'm going to pull this little phrase from The Secret of the Ages. The law of supply is, if you think abundance, you attract abundance, right? So in order to live an abundant life, you must speak abundance, you must think abundance, you must act abundantly, you must live abundantly, you must become abundance, become one with the whole premise, idea, belief of abundance. You must become one with it, and then your supply will reflect just that. You will become fully abundant in who you are. And so, going back to what I just said earlier, if you think lack, if you think that resources are limited, if you think that the fresh water is going to run out, if you think that the world is going to blow up, or if the apocalypse is going to come, or all the food is going to be gone and people are going to be left to starvation, if you think lack, you're going to live a lackful life. And that's really the law of supply is, whatever you impress upon original substance, or whatever you impress upon the source of supply, that's exactly what you will get. It's simple as that. And so, pulling this from The Science of Getting Rich, once again, you see, live in creation, not competition. You see, because if you live in competition, if you fear that resources are limited, blessings are limited, opportunities are limited, if you feel like there's only so much of certain things to go around and I must get my fair share of the good before someone else takes my fair share of the good that belongs to me, right? If you live in that competitive mode of existence, then your life will be very, very hard. It will be very, very challenging. You will create your own stressful life. You will create your own turmoil. You will create your own lackful life, right? And you're going to live in a competitive state. You're going to live in an animalistic state. To be honest, you're not going to live like a powerful creator, because in order to live like a powerful creator, right, you must live on the creative plane. And to live on the creative plane, you have to understand that anything can be created. Anything can be created by thought and feeling alone. Yes, you have to do the action, because action is necessary to bring anything about, but it is through the beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings you hold in your inner world, in your inner reality, that create guess what they create, right? They create the good you desire. They create exactly what you want. So if you want to live an abundant life, if you want to live a stress-free life, if you want to live a financially free life, then start thinking these thoughts. Start feeling that way. Start realizing that, hey, there's more water on this planet than we can possibly use, right? And water is being recycled as we speak. There's more elements on this earth that we haven't even tapped into. There's mountains that haven't even been scourged, haven't even been excavated yet, right? There's places we haven't even discovered yet. There's species of animals and insects and all sorts of life forms and all of that we haven't even discovered. The Amazon rainforest, you think we've discovered all the species in that Amazon rainforest? No, we have not. We've barely touched the surface on how many species of life forms there are in the Amazon rainforest. And we keep learning and uncovering new species all the time, right? If you keep up with National Geographic. And that's like barely touching the surface. There's so much out here that we are so unaware of. There's so many inventions that are yet to be created. Think about the iPhone, right? Before the year 2000, nobody even knew about an iPhone. Yet we created that, right? There's so much that can be created, but you have to think in terms of abundance. You have to think in terms of creation, innovation, invention. You must realize that all is available because you see, the source of supply, even though it may be invisible, quote unquote, to the visible eye, it is infinite in nature. And if you need something, creation will allow it to form, right? If you need certain elements to create certain products or things, those elements will become readily available, right? Through source working for it to happen. You see, this world is self-sustaining. And by the world, I mean the planet is self-sustaining. The universe is self-sustaining. Existence is self-sustaining. That's one of the laws of existence, is that existence takes care of itself, right? You don't take care of existence. Are you taking care of the planetary systems? Are you taking care of the orbit of the Earth? You're not taking care of anything, man. You're barely taking care of yourself. You're trying so hard to take care of yourself, right? You're trying to change your own habits and your own thinking, and that's a struggle in itself. So how can you take care of the universe or the multiverse complex? There's no way, right? Because it's self-sustaining. It takes care of itself. So same thing. All the products available that not products, but the resources, the raw material that you need, it's forever present, right? It's infinite in nature, so never feel that way. Last thing I want to say about the law of supply, because the video is carrying on a little bit, is that demand and supply go hand in hand, right? You have to understand that what it is you must demand of life greater things, because whatever you demand of life, you get. So if you demand of life, a minimum wage job, life will only supply you with a minimum wage job. If you demand of life just a mediocre existence, life will supply you a mediocre existence. If you demand of life riches, if you demand of life your own business, if you demand from life wealth, right? You want to dress good, you want to look good, you want to drive good. And there's no shame in that. Don't ever feel shameful. Don't ever feel embarrassed. Don't ever feel those guilt, kind of emotions of wanting better things. There's nothing wrong with that, because Source or God wants you to live an abundant life. God wants you to be rich. You have to get that through to your head, to your heart, that God wants you to be rich. God wants you to be successful. God wants you to be a multimillionaire. God wants you and your family to do well, right? But you yourself have to learn to feel that way too, right? God can want all these things for you, but you have to tune into that feeling yourself in order to synchronize with the law of supply. So you must demand from life greater things. You must demand from life exactly what you desire. You must demand from life the riches that you want, right? The lavish, luxurious lifestyle that you want, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. Yes, you can give along the way. You can help people out along the way. When you get your riches, you can give all you want. You can do whatever you want to do, right? But you must demand from life exactly what you desire, and the law of supply will give it to you. And that's something you have to get through to your head, that the law of supply will always give you what you demand. But I want to give an example, right? A person that expects to make $30,000 to $40,000 in a particular year, the law of supply is going to make sure that he only makes $30,000 to $40,000 a year, because his inner reality, his inner belief is rooted in the fact, in the belief that he only can make $30,000 to $40,000 a year. His consciousness is only at that level, right? So in order to let the law of supply work for you in a greater sense, you must change your demand. You must expand your demand, right? Maybe that's the maxim of this law of supply, right? Expand your demand, and the law of supply will provide. Hey man, that's a catchy slogan. Quote me on that for sure, okay? But expand your demand, right? Raise your standards of living, right? Raise your demand from life, and life will provide you. So if you're making 30, 40 a year and you want to make 100, start expanding your consciousness. Start believing that you can make 100. Start working towards making 100. Start repeating to yourself every single day, I am making $100,000 in profit this year. I am now making $100,000 in profit this year. You have to repeat to yourself. Look in the mirror, look at yourself every single day and say to yourself, I am now making $100,000 now this year. I am making $100,000 now this year, right? Say your own affirmation, but say these kinds of things, because eventually whatever you repeat so often will become a belief, will become something you start believing. It will expand your consciousness. You'll start working towards it. You'll get ideas, input, downloads from source energy in order to get to that level. And guess what? The law of supply will supply. So have a greater demand from life, and life will meet you at your demands, right? Never feel shameful, never feel guilty, never feel like, life doesn't owe you anything. Life owes you, right? Life owes you. You are here, and life is here to provide you with the best of the best. But you got to believe. How is it possible that some people are working so hard but barely, living paycheck to paycheck, that there's other people that are not even working that hard are making millions of dollars, right? It's because of their consciousness. They believe different things. They demand different things, right? They demand from life an easier existence, and that's exactly what they get. So get on that. Get on that wave. This has been the law of supply. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I've just touched the surface. Read the books I have mentioned. I'll link all of them in the description below with the Amazon link. By the way, I'm not affiliated to any link, so I'm not making any money off of this. If you feel like donating to me, I will link you my PayPal. If you feel like this video has served any purpose in your life right now, give it a thumbs up. Share it with somebody you feel like could really use this information. Also, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, if you want to stay in tune with more self-development, personal improvement, self-mastery kind of videos that talk about so many different topics, because I have so many different influences. I am influenced by non-duality. I've been in that for such a long time, by psychology, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, philosophy, spirituality, you name it, I'm into it. I'm very versatile in my topics, and I think you will enjoy a lot of my content. So stay tuned, subscribe. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. Wishing you all a happy new year. Much love, peace, stay tuned. Oh, and before I forget, my last law that I discussed will be right here. Click on it, watch it, learn, and prosper, my friends. Take care, peace. And I'll see you on the other side, or the other video, next video. Bye.